Janelle is already gone. Coyote Pass sits quiet, frozen in law and memory, while paperwork moves in places no one is watching. What looks like a simple land dispute is about to expose who was planning this long before the family ever fell apart. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments, do you believe Coyote Pass was ever meant to be shared? Or was it always someone's endgame? The wind moves across Coyote Pass the way it always has, slow and stubborn, brushing over dirt that once held so many promises. This land was supposed to be the future. Not just property, not just acreage, but proof that the Browns could rebuild themselves somewhere new. Now it feels abandoned, like a stage after the actors have left, props still standing, but the story already over. Janelle is gone, not emotionally distant, not thinking about it. Gone. Her absence is felt in the silence more than it ever was in the arguments. No long text messages, no financial check-ins, no quiet compromises that used to keep everything balanced. The land doesn't know it yet, but the structure holding it together has already cracked. Cody insists everything is fine. He says the land is frozen, legally protected, untouched. He says there's no rush. His voice carries that familiar confidence, the kind that sounds steady until you listen closely and hear how often he repeats himself. He tells everyone this is just a pause, a regrouping, a temporary moment before the family moves forward again. Robyn agrees. Of course she does. She says they just need time. She says everyone's emotions are too raw. She says Janelle leaving doesn't mean the family is broken. It just means they're adjusting. Her words are soft, careful, wrapped in concern. She talks about stress, about anxiety, about feeling like she's carrying the weight of the family alone. And that's the first time the story quietly shifts. Because while Robyn is talking about emotional overload, something else is happening. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, methodically. Paperwork is being prepared, not discussed, not announced, filed. Something about Coyote Pass is changing, and no one is being told the full truth yet. Christine isn't part of these conversations anymore, but her absence is different from Janelle's. Christine left loudly, with boundaries, with clarity. Janelle left like someone closing a door without slamming it, trusting that what's on the other side will eventually make sense. That trust is about to be tested. Maris still shows up. She always does. She listens more than she speaks. She watches the dynamics shift, the way conversations now happen in smaller circles, the way decisions feel pre-made by the time they're mentioned. No one asks her opinion anymore, they inform her of conclusions. She tells herself that's just how things are now. She tells herself not to read into it. But then the notice arrives. It's small, almost insignificant. A standard-looking envelope, no drama, no warning. Just language that doesn't sit right in her chest. Legal phrasing. References to emotional hardship and family abandonment. Words that feel strangely personal for something that's supposedly just about land. Mary reads it twice, then a third time. Her name is there, but not the way it should be. She calls Cody first. He sounds distracted. He tells her not to worry. He says it's just a formality. He says Robyn's been under a lot of stress, and the lawyers suggested some temporary measures to protect the family's assets. Protect from who? Janelle is gone, but she hasn't made any legal moves. Christine is already detached. Mary is standing right there, holding a piece of paper that suddenly makes her feel like a guest in a story she helped build. Robyn says it's nothing. She says the filing is misunderstood. She says it's about stability, about making sure the land doesn't get tied up if emotions get worse. She cries when she says it, and the tears seem real enough to slow the conversation. They always do. This is the moment where confusion starts replacing trust. At Coyote Pass, the land doesn't change, but the meaning of it does. What was once shared vision now feels like leverage. Every past conversation echoes differently. Every promise sounds conditional in hindsight. Flashbacks creep in, conversations around kitchen tables, discussions about fairness, about equal shares, about building side by side. Janelle's voice was always the practical one, asking about numbers, timelines, logistics. She didn't dream, she planned. And now she's gone. Robyn says Janelle abandoned the family. Not angrily, softly, like an observation. She uses the word again later, in a different conversation, with a lawyer this time. Family abandonment. It sounds heavier there. More official. No one tells Mary that phrase is being attached to legal documents. Cody starts avoiding specifics. He talks in circles. He says everyone's just being emotional. He says the lawyers know what they're doing. He says Robyn is only trying to protect what's left. Protect it for whom? Christine hears whispers through the kids, through half-finished sentences and awkward pauses. She doesn't intervene. Not yet. She's learned what happens when you rush back into chaos that you've already escaped. But she's watching. Closely. The land is frozen, but the power around it is moving fast. Mary finally asks the question no one wants to answer. What exactly was filed? Not emotionally, not accusingly, just directly. Robyn's face tightens for half a second before the tears come again. She says it's complicated. She says she didn't want to burden anyone. She says she thought everyone would understand. Mary realizes something in that moment. Understanding was never requested. Consent was never part of the plan. The silence that follows is thick. Not angry, not explosive. Worse, uncertain. Because uncertainty is where doubt grows, and doubt is harder to undo than a fight. Janelle hasn't spoken publicly since leaving, but behind the scenes, she's paying attention. She hears about the filings, the language, the way her departure is being framed. She doesn't respond emotionally. She opens a folder instead. Old records, payment histories, agreements that were never formalized because trust was supposed to be enough. What Janelle knows could change everything, and she knows exactly when to use it. As the session closes, Mary sits alone, rereading the notice. The land she thought she co-owned now feels like something she has to prove she belongs to. Outside, Coyote Pass remains still, unaware that it's about to become the center of something far bigger than a family argument. Because this was never just about land. It was about control. The paperwork doesn't stay quiet for long. What started as a single notice turns into a pattern, and once you see a pattern, you can't unsee it. Mary notices it first, how quickly conversations shut down when she asks for copies, how often Robyn says the lawyer already has that, how Cody suddenly talks about Coyote Pass like it's a liability instead of a dream. He uses new language now. Risk, exposure, protection. None of those words were ever used when the land was purchased. Back then, it was all about legacy, about fairness, about building something together. Now it sounds like someone is preparing for a fight they don't want to name out loud. Mary reaches out to Janelle. Not accusatory, not dramatic, just a simple message asking if she knows what's going on. The reply doesn't come immediately. When it does, it's short, controlled, almost too calm. Janelle says she knows more than they think. That sentence lingers longer than any argument ever did. Some silences aren't empty, they're loaded. Robyn continues presenting herself as overwhelmed. She talks about panic attacks, about feeling unsafe emotionally, about how Janelle leaving changed everything. She never says the word strategy, but everything she does feels strategic. Every tear appears at the right moment. Every breakdown happens just before a difficult question. Cody backs her up, loudly, almost desperately. He talks about loyalty like it's currency. He frames doubt as betrayal. And slowly, subtly, he starts positioning himself as the victim of everyone else's choices. Christine watches this unfold from a distance. She's no longer inside the storm. but she recognizes its shape. She remembers how often emotion was used to shut down logic, how tears ended conversations that facts would have complicated. She warns Mary gently, not to accuse, just to be careful. Mary starts requesting records on her own. That's when things escalate. The lawyer finally calls her back, not with reassurance, but with hesitation. He explains that there has been a filing requesting temporary control adjustments tied to emotional distress and family abandonment risks. It's framed as preventative, protective, but it shifts power in subtle ways that don't look dramatic until you realize how permanent temporary things can become. Mary asks the question she's been avoiding. Who requested this? The answer lands quietly. Robyn. In that moment, the story stops being confusing and starts being clear. Mary isn't angry yet. She's stunned. Shock has a way of freezing emotion before it releases it. She thinks back to every conversation where Robyn said she just wanted peace. Every time she said she didn't want to be the bad guy. Every tear that slowed down accountability. Cody insists he approved it. He says it was a joint decision. But when Mary asks when exactly they discussed it, he can't give a straight answer. He says everything's been a blur. He says Robyn handled the details. Handled. That word hits harder than it should. Meanwhile, Janelle is no longer just watching. She's preparing. She reviews bank statements, tax payments, land installments. She remembers who paid late fees, who covered gaps, who fronted money when things were tight. She remembers agreements that were never written down because trust was supposed to be enough. She doesn't call Robyn. She doesn't confront Cody. She calls a lawyer. The moment someone stops arguing and starts documenting, the power shifts. Back at Coyote Pass, the land remains unchanged. But now it feels watched. Like something sacred has been turned into evidence. Conversations feel performative. Everyone is careful with words, aware that anything could end up quoted later. Robyn senses the shift. Her tears come faster now. Her voice shakes more often. She says she feels attacked. She says no one understands what she's been carrying. She says she's just trying to keep the family from falling apart. But the family already feels like it's standing on opposite sides of an invisible line. Mary realizes she's been slowly pushed to the edge of decisions she helped create. Christine sees confirmation of what she escaped. Janelle is quietly building a case without ever raising her voice. And Cody, for the first time, looks unsure which version of the story will survive. Because once legal language enters a family built on emotional agreements, nothing stays informal again. As night falls over Coyote Pass, Mary stares at the land she once imagined growing old beside. She doesn't know yet whether she'll fight for it or walk away. She only knows one thing for certain. This isn't just a family disagreement anymore. It's the beginning of a courtroom war. And someone started it long before anyone else realized. The next morning, the light falls differently across Coyote Pass. Dust motes float lazily in the air, but they can't hide the tension settling over the property like a weight. Birds chirp in the distance, oblivious to the storm that's quietly brewing inside the house. Every hallway echoes with half-finished conversations, doors that open only a crack, footsteps that stop when someone enters the room. Mary sits at the dining table, papers spread before her. She rereads the notice, the lawyer's explanations, the timeline of events. Every line seems to add another layer of betrayal. Every small detail feels like it has been manipulated, carefully stacked in Robyn's favor. And the more she reads, the more the pattern emerges. Emotional claims paired with procedural filings, all designed to gain control while keeping others in the dark. Some truths don't announce themselves. They creep, unnoticed, until the damage is done. Robyn walks past, pretending to check on the kids, her face a mask of concern and exhaustion. Mary watches her, sees the micro-expressions, the quick tightening of the jaw, the careful blink, the pause before responding. She knows the tears have been timed. She knows the pauses are strategic. And for the first time, she feels the full weight of isolation, like she's been slowly edged out of the family's decisions without ever noticing. Christine calls later that day. Her voice is measured, cautious, a little sharp. "Miri, you need to be careful. They're not playing fair. And if Janelle hadn't left, she'd already see through this." Miri swallows. She's scared, yes, but mostly she's fueled by a strange mix of anger and clarity. For years, she let the family's emotional dynamics dictate her actions. But now she sees something starkly different. Robyn isn't crying because she's hurt. She's crying because she's manipulating. Cody enters the kitchen, leaning against the counter. His tone is familiar, calm, almost dismissive. "Mary, you're overreacting," he says. "This is just paperwork. It doesn't change anything." "Mary Gleres, doesn't change anything?" she repeats. "The paperwork already names you and Robyn as temporary controllers." "Temporary, sure. But who decides when it ends?" The room goes quiet. The kids' laughter drifts up from the back porch, a stark contrast to the tension thickening in the air. Cody shifts uncomfortably, not meeting her eyes. Behind the silence, Mary senses it, a shift in the balance. A subtle but undeniable realignment. She is no longer just a participant in the family's decisions. She has been forced into a defensive position, one she never asked for but cannot ignore. Then, in a single moment, the call she's been dreading comes through. Janelle's voice is calm, almost eerily composed. "Miri, I know what's happening, and I think it's time we act." Some doors, once closed, reopen not with apology, but with intent. Miri listens, every word Janelle says dripping with precision. Financial records, signed agreements, emails that were thought deleted, witness accounts. Janelle has compiled everything. She doesn't need to yell, she doesn't need to cry, she doesn't need to argue. Facts are her weapon. And suddenly, Mary realizes that while Robyn may have started this quietly, Janelle is about to turn it into something irreversible. The tension at Coyote Pass escalates. Conversations grow shorter. Eyes avoid each other. Every meeting now carries the weight of unspoken accusations. Even casual gestures, a hand brushing the counter, a step too close, feel loaded with meaning. By evening, the family gathers in the living room, ostensibly for a casual dinner. But the air is heavy. Everyone knows the balance has shifted. Mary sits across from Robyn and Cody, noticing every twitch, every subtle sign of unease. Christine watches from the corner, silent but alert. Janelle's presence is felt everywhere. Even though she is not physically there, her plans and records hovering over every decision. And as night deepens over Coyote Pass, Miri realizes something chilling. The land is still frozen. Legally, nothing has changed yet. But emotionally, psychologically, the battle lines have been drawn. In every family, some fights are quiet, until they explode in the courtroom. And this one is about to ignite. The first filing has been made, the first strategy deployed. And while Robyn's tears may still flow, the power is no longer hers alone. Tomorrow, the letters, the lawyers, the silent negotiations, all of it will converge in a place neither Cody nor Robyn can control. Because Coyote Pass isn't just land anymore. It's the stage for the family's reckoning. And the reckoning is coming fast. The next morning, the sun rises over Coyote Pass. But the light feels colder somehow. Dust floats in the air, glinting off the edges of the fields. But even nature seems to sense the tension building. Inside the house, silence reigns, not the comfortable kind, but the heavy, suffocating kind that comes just before a storm. Every footstep is measured. Every word is calculated. Everyone is on edge. Mary sits at the dining table, the lawyer's folder open in front of her. She goes through the documents again, line by line. Dates, signatures, clauses. Every small detail points to one uncomfortable truth: Robyn's filings were deliberate. They weren't mistakes. They weren't oversights. This is a calculated attempt to shift power, to control what everyone else thought was shared. Some battles don't announce themselves. They start quietly, unnoticed, until it's too late to turn back. Cody enters the room, leaning casually against the counter. But Mary sees through the act. His calmness is a mask, thin and trembling at the edges. "Mary, you're reading too much into this," he says. "Robyn just wants to make sure everything is in order. That's all." Mary doesn't flinch. She's been reading too much into it for months. She knows the truth. "In order?" she asks, voice steady but sharp. "Temporary control adjustments, emotional distress claims, family abandonment, how is that in order?" He doesn't answer. Instead, he shifts uncomfortably, glances away, and mutters something about lawyers handling it. But the words don't land. The pattern is clear. Even to someone not trained in law, Robyn isn't crying because she's hurt. She's crying because she's winning. Christine calls later, her tone clipped but firm. "Mary, I've seen this before. Don't let them steamroll you. And remember, Janelle isn't done watching or acting. That last part hangs in the air." Mary feels it. Janelle's absence isn't absence at all. It's quiet observation, strategy, calculation. She's not here emotionally, but she's present in every move, every document, every tactic. The kids play outside, their laughter a jarring contrast to the storm brewing inside. It's a temporary shield, one Mary clings to for a moment. But even their innocent chatter reminds her. What's at stake isn't just land or money. It's legacy, trust, and family history rewritten. Later that afternoon, a lawyer's call comes. The voice on the other end is hesitant, almost nervous. "Mary, there's been a filing. Temporary control has been adjusted. Emotional distress, family abandonment, it's tied to Robyn's claim." Mary leans back in her chair, heart racing. She repeats the words to herself, letting them sink in. Robyn's quiet moves are no longer subtle. They are official. They are documented. And they are legally binding, at least for now. Some shifts in power are invisible until the walls close in. And then they hit all at once. That evening, as the family gathers for dinner, the atmosphere is different. Eyes dart. Voices are quieter than usual. Cody talks more than he usually does, filling silence with explanations and justifications. Robyn cries intermittently, soft, calculated, perfectly timed. But now, Mary notices it. She notices everything. Janelle's presence feels more real than ever. Not physically, but strategically. She has prepared. She has documents. She has proof. And most importantly, she knows exactly when to use it. Mary's mind races. She can see the inevitable. The courtroom, the judge, the legal documents, the family unraveling under scrutiny. She knows that Robyn's strategy might have seemed invisible at first, but it's now out in the open. And the moment someone brings facts into the emotional battlefield, everything changes. As the night settles, Coyote Pass stands still, quiet, almost serene. But beneath the surface, the currents of tension swirl faster, ready to erupt. The land that once symbolized unity now marks the battlefield lines. When loyalty clashes with legality, the ground beneath your feet isn't solid anymore. It's shifting, and one wrong move could tip everything. Mary looks out the window at the fields she once dreamed of sharing. The wind rustles the trees softly, almost whispering secrets. She knows one thing. The war over Coyote Pass is just beginning, and the quiet before the storm is more dangerous than the storm itself. Tomorrow, the documents, the lawyers, and the family's secrets will collide. And nothing, not tears, not loyalty, not silence, will ever make the land feel the same again. The morning light cuts through the blinds at Coyote Pass like a spotlight, illuminating dust that dances lazily in the air. But inside, there's no peace. The living room feels heavy, almost suffocating, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. The papers are out again, spread across the table like a battlefield map, each one a silent testament to decisions made without consent, claims filed without knowledge, alliances shifting behind closed doors. Mary stares at them, tracing the lines, memorizing the dates and names, the signatures that don't belong to her, or at least shouldn't. Every document tells a story, but it's Robyn's story now. Her tears, her pleas, her quiet cries of distress were never just emotional. They were deliberate, strategic, a curtain hiding a legal maneuver that could change the family forever. Some truths hit harder when written in ink rather than spoken in anger. Cody walks in, hands in his pockets, forcing a casual stride. But the tension between them is palpable. He doesn't need to speak to communicate the subtle warning in his eyes. Be careful. Tread lightly. He starts talking, in that familiar soft tone he reserves for explanations meant to placate. Mary, it's just paperwork. Everything will work out. Robyn is just trying to protect the family. She isn't doing this to hurt anyone. Mary listens, but this time, the words land differently. They feel hollow, rehearsed, like a script someone has delivered too many times. She's heard this before, in other conversations that dissolved into confusion and half-truths. She knows the game now. And she knows she can't step back. Christine calls from a distance, her voice sharp, controlled. Mary, watch the patterns. Look at the timing. Robyn doesn't cry by accident. She files by design. Mary closes her eyes, taking a breath. She remembers all the subtle signs she ignored before, meetings that never included her, whispered conversations that paused when she entered a room, sudden cancellations explained away as emergencies. The pattern was invisible until now, but the pieces fall together quickly, painfully. Then the lawyer's call comes, the kind of call you can feel before you even answer. Mary, the filings are more serious than first reported. Temporary control has been granted to Robyn, citing emotional distress claims. And there's a clause, he hesitates, almost apologetically, about family abandonment risks. The judge has signed it as an interim measure. Mary's stomach drops. She rereads the words in her mind, letting them soak in. Temporary control. Emotional distress. Family abandonment. Temporary. Interim. But the implications are permanent if left unchallenged. Some shifts in power are so subtle at first that by the time you notice, the landscape has already changed. That afternoon, the family gathers at Coyote Pass under the guise of a casual meeting. But the air is sharp, each sentence laced with hidden meaning. Robyn speaks first, her voice trembling, eyes glistening. She talks about how hard it's been to manage the family while others are absent. She emphasizes fear, instability, sacrifice. Her words are measured, precise, almost rehearsed, but they hit their mark. Cody nods, echoing her concern, framing their actions as protection, not control. Mary feels a tightening in her chest. She watches the small ticks in Robyn's face, the way her hand trembles slightly when she places it over her heart. It's emotional theater, designed to justify legal maneuvers. And the audience, the family, is watching, and believing, or at least questioning themselves. Meanwhile, Christine observes quietly. Her presence is subtle, but the weight of her experience presses down on the room. She notices inconsistencies in Robyn's story, contradictions in her timeline, small slips that reveal calculation beneath the tears. She glances at Mary and nods imperceptibly, an unspoken warning, stay alert. Then comes the revelation no one is ready for. The lawyer calls again, this time with an update Janelle orchestrated from afar, a batch of old documents, contracts, and bank statements that contradict every claim Robyn has made. Tax payments misattributed. Loan responsibilities ignored. Agreements assumed but never finalized. Evidence of decisions Janelle made years ago that no one else documented. Mary looks down at the paperwork. Her hands shake. This is the leverage she never wanted. the power she never asked for, but now it's hers to wield. Some victories come not from shouting, but from waiting quietly and watching the pieces fall into place. The tension in the room is now almost unbearable. Robyn senses it, though she doesn't yet know the source. Cody fidgets, trying to maintain calm, trying to frame the coming confrontation as minor, manageable, just a misunderstanding. But even he feels the shift, the subtle imbalance that Janelle's records bring. Mary finally speaks, carefully, not with accusation, not with anger, yet. Robyn, Cody, we need to clarify these documents, all of them, and we need transparency. The room freezes. Robyn blinks, once, twice, caught off guard. Cody stumbles, searching for words. The children laugh in the background, unaware of the emotional storm above them. Christine leans forward slightly, her eyes sharp, her posture tense. The first seeds of the courtroom war have been sown. Everyone feels it. No one can ignore it now. When silent observation becomes preparation, even the calmest home can become a battlefield. And somewhere, far from the house, Janelle watches from a distance. She doesn't speak. She doesn't intervene yet. She knows timing is everything. One misstep from Robyn, one hesitation from Cody, and the legal leverage she's quietly built will explode into action. Mary looks at the papers again, feeling the weight of responsibility pressed down. She realizes she has a choice. Step back, let the chaos unfold, or step forward, armed with facts, ready to confront the emotional manipulation head-on. The stakes are clear. Coyote Pass is no longer just land. It's proof. It's leverage. It's the beginning of a war that will change everything. And no one will walk away unchanged. The question now isn't who is crying or who is scared. It's who will control the story when the courtroom doors finally open. The courthouse stands quietly under a gray sky, its bricks damp from an overnight drizzle. Inside, the air smells faintly of paper, polished wood, and nervous anticipation. Mary steps through the doors, her heart hammering, palms slightly damp. She's not just walking into a building. She's walking into the center of a storm that's been brewing quietly for months. Robyn is already there. Her face is pale, tears already glistening in her eyes as she speaks softly to the clerk. She's practiced this look. Fragile, scared, overwhelmed. Every whimper, every half-breathed sigh is a calculated move. Cody hovers behind her, acting as her shield, his hands twitching with nerves he tries desperately to hide. Mary breathes deeply, forcing herself to step past the theatrics. She carries Janelle's documents tightly in a folder, a weight that's both literal and symbolic. Each page is a reminder that this isn't about emotion. It's about facts. And facts are dangerous in a room designed for truth. Some truths don't whisper, they explode when given a platform. The judge enters. Silence falls, thick and absolute. Everyone rises. The gavel hits once, and the courtroom becomes an arena where past grievances, hidden agendas, and family loyalty will be tested against law. Robyn begins her testimony first. Her voice shakes at first, drawing sympathy. She speaks about emotional hardship, abandonment, the strain of managing the family after Janelle's departure. Her words are soft, but deliberate. Every pause, every tear, every glance is a weapon. The audience in the courtroom leans in. The emotional weight is tangible, almost oppressive. Cody nods along, offering quiet support. "We just want what's best," he says, carefully. His tone is calm, but there's an edge of desperation that betrays him. He knows the story is tilting. He can feel it. Then comes Mary. She stands, folder clutched tightly. She doesn't cry. She doesn't plead. She speaks clearly, steadily, each word precise, each fact anchored in documentation. The air shifts instantly. The sympathetic aura surrounding Robyn falters. She lays out the timeline, the payments, the agreements, the emails, the contradictions. Every claim Robyn has made is countered with proof. Bank statements, signed agreements, even casual notes that expose how Robyn's version of events doesn't align with reality. Some moments in life are quieter than battles, but hit harder than gunfire. Robyn's face begins to pale. The practiced tears falter, turning from calculated to shaky. She fumbles with her words, stumbles over dates she had memorized a dozen times in rehearsal. Cody whispers under his breath, but his voice lacks conviction now. The narrative they tried to control is slipping through their fingers, thread by thread. Christine leans forward from the gallery, eyes sharp, voice almost inaudible. That's right. Look at the records. She doesn't speak to the judge, doesn't accuse, but her presence is a pressure all its own. The judge calls for a recess. The room empties slowly, but tension lingers like smoke after a fire. In the hall, whispers travel fast. Lawyers confer in low tones. Staff exchange uneasy glances. Even the stenographer pauses, sensing the storm unfolding. Outside the courtroom, Mary steps into the sunlight. Her chest rises and falls rapidly. The folder feels heavier than ever. She sees Robyn speaking to a colleague, wiping tears, regaining composure. But Mary knows the cracks are there. She can feel them. She can see them. Some victories aren't loud, they're quiet, undeniable, and they make the other side panic. Back in the courtroom, the second session begins. Janelle appears via video testimony, calm and composed. Her voice doesn't tremble, it doesn't plead. It delivers facts. Each figure, each date, each contract cited with precision. The room falls silent with every statement. Robyn's hands tremble, Cody glances away, and even the judge leans forward, noting the weight of the evidence. Mary watches carefully. She realizes how far this has gone. What started as a land dispute is now a reckoning, not just about Coyote Pass, but about who has controlled the family, who has manipulated events, and who will finally be held accountable. The climax of the session comes when the judge asks a question that freezes everyone. Ms. Robyn, can you explain why the documents submitted by Janelle contradict your statements entirely? Her lips part. Her prepared lines vanish. Cody steps forward, attempting a defense, but the judge's gaze is unwavering. The room feels like it's suspended in time. Every heartbeat loud, every intake of breath heavy. When emotion clashes with truth, even the most composed fade crumbles. And then, as if on cue, one of the children is called to testify. Their words simple, but devastating. They recount what they remember, what they were told, what promises were made and broken. Their innocence cuts through the tension, highlighting the betrayal in ways adults often hide. Robyn's shoulders slump slightly, a crack in the armor she thought unbreakable. Cody's jaw tightens. The courtroom is silent again. But now, it's a charged, uneasy silence. Everyone feels that the story is no longer theirs to control. Mary looks at the judge, the children, the documents, and for a moment sees the full picture. Coyote Pass isn't just land. It's legacy. It's family history. And now it's truth laid bare, exposed for all to see. The session ends, but the story doesn't. Outside, the family walks in tight groups, whispering, arguing quietly. The next session promises confrontations that no one can predict. Alliances will shift. Secrets long buried will surface. And Robyn, for all her calculated tears, may finally face the consequences of her quiet strategy. Some battles are fought not in anger, but in patience. And those who wait often strike last. The courtroom is tense, nearly suffocating, as everyone settles back into their seats. Papers rustle. Pens tap nervously against pads. Even the air feels thick, heavy with anticipation. Outside, a faint drizzle taps against the windows, as if nature itself senses the brewing storm inside. Robyn sits at the plaintiff's table, hands folded tightly, knuckles white. She's crying again, but this time, the tears are smaller, sharper, more brittle. The kind of tears that hint at desperation rather than sorrow. Cody leans close, whispering reassurances that sound more like panic under the weight of scrutiny. Mary takes her place with the calm steadiness of someone who has been forced into clarity. The folder of documents Janelle prepared rests on the table in front of her, like a silent weapon. She doesn't need to raise her voice. She doesn't need to dramatize her emotions. Facts are her shield, and precision her armor. Some moments in life hit harder when spoken with truth than screamed with emotion. The judge calls the session to order, eyes scanning the room, catching every subtle glance, every trembling hand. "We will continue," he says, voice calm but carrying authority that fills the courtroom. "I expect clarity, honesty, and full disclosure." Robyn begins again, repeating her emotional testimony from before. But this time, there's a tremor of uncertainty in her voice. The first cracks are visible. Dates she swore she remembered perfectly begin to falter. Statements that seemed coherent before now conflict with newly submitted evidence. Cody tries to interject, but the judge cuts him off gently, signaling that the facts speak louder than protestations. Mary stands to speak. She lays out every document, every timeline, every email Janelle had quietly compiled. The room goes still. Every face is rigid, absorbing the weight of truth. The words feel sharper in person, heavier than they did on paper. Every misalignment in Robyn's claims becomes undeniable. Christine watches from the gallery, lips pressed tightly together. She doesn't intervene, but her presence is pressure enough. Her eyes meet Mary's for a brief second, an unspoken acknowledgement that justice may finally have a chance. When patience meets preparation, even the most calculated plans can unravel. The first shock comes when the judge asks Robyn to respond to a particularly damning piece of evidence, a signed agreement that directly contradicts her claim of sole emotional hardship and control. The courtroom holds its breath. Robyn's face pales. Her hands clutch at the table. Words fail her for the first time. Cody shifts uneasily beside her, realizing that their carefully crafted narrative is collapsing piece by piece. Then, in a move no one expects, one of the adult children steps forward. Their voice is steady, but emotional, recounting the promises made to them, promises Robyn claimed she honored, and how reality diverged from those promises. The testimony is simple, yet devastating. Every word lands like a blow, not just on Robyn, but on the entire faith the family tried to maintain. Mary's heart races. She realizes that this is more than a legal battle. It's a reckoning of every choice, every manipulation, every hidden agenda. And in that moment, the stakes are no longer abstract. They are tangible, sharp, immediate. Some truths can't be ignored, no matter how many tears are shed. Robyn breaks down, not theatrically, but genuinely. Her mask falters. The courtroom witnesses it, the children sense it, even Cody cannot disguise his panic. It's a combination of fear, frustration, and the realization that control is slipping. The judge leans forward. "Miss Robyn, this court needs full transparency. The evidence submitted clearly contradicts your claims. How do you explain this?" Silence fills the room. Even the air seems suspended, every small noise amplified. Robyn opens her mouth, closes it again, and finally whispers, almost inaudibly, I didn't think it would matter." The words hang like smoke. They are both admission and defeat. The room feels suddenly colder, heavier, like the scale of justice itself is tilting. Then comes the final, shocking moment of the session. Janelle herself appears via video conference. Her presence is calm, composed, almost clinical. She doesn't cry, she doesn't plead, she doesn't perform. She delivers facts, evidence, timelines, contracts that show every action, every payment, every decision she ever made. The courtroom goes silent. Robyn's hands tremble. Cody's jaw tightens. The weight of undeniable truth presses down like a physical force. Even the judge leans forward, recognizing the gravity of the evidence. Mary watches, heart pounding, as the power dynamics shift completely. What began as emotional maneuvering, strategic tears, and quiet filings is now exposed under the stark, unrelenting light of fact. Some battles are won not in anger, not in shouting, but in silence and preparation. The session ends, but the ripples continue. Outside the courtroom, whispers of shock travel fast. The family walks in tense groups, arguing quietly, eyes darting, every gesture loaded with meaning. Robyn and Cody are no longer confident. Their calculated narrative has been shattered. Mary feels a mixture of relief and anticipation. She knows the next steps will be even more explosive. The courtroom has seen only the first wave. The deeper betrayals, the hidden agreements, and the long-buried family secrets are still waiting to be revealed. And as they leave, the courtroom doors closing behind them. One thought lingers, heavy and undeniable. Coyote Pass is no longer just land. It is proof. It is power. And it will never be the same again. The real war is just beginning, and no one will walk away unscathed. The evening falls over Coyote Pass like a heavy blanket. The house is quiet, but inside, the air is charged with tension. The day's courtroom revelations hang over every conversation, every glance, every movement. The silence is fractured only by the occasional sound of the wind rattling the windows or the distant hum of traffic on the nearby road. Mary sits alone at the kitchen table, the folder of Janelle's evidence open in front of her. She rereads the contracts, the emails, the bank statements, every page a reminder that the battle is far from over. But for the first time in months, she feels clarity. The pieces have fallen into place, and she understands the scope of Robyn's strategy. Robyn enters the kitchen. Her eyes are red, the mascara smudged from hours of crying. But there's still a careful calculation in her expression. She speaks softly, almost coaxing. Mary, I just want the family to stay together. You have to understand that. Mary doesn't look up. She keeps her eyes on the papers. Her voice is calm, but steady. I understand perfectly, Robyn. That's why I need answers, honest ones. No more emotional games. Some confrontations don't explode. They simmer, until the truth boils over. Robyn's voice wavers, the practiced emotional performance cracking under pressure. I didn't want it to get this far. I just wanted stability. Stability. The word hangs in the air, hollow and fragile. Mary leans forward, her tone quiet but unyielding. This isn't stability. This is control, and it's no longer just about you. Cody enters, drawn by the voices. He leans against the counter, attempting calm authority, but his eyes betray fear. He says, Mary, we're all just trying to protect the family. That's all this is about. Mary shakes her head. Protecting the family? By filing temporary control without telling anyone? By claiming emotional distress and abandonment? That's not protection. That's manipulation. For a moment, silence. The kind of silence that presses into the bones. Robyn looks down, fiddling with her hands. Cody exhales sharply. Some actions speak louder than the loudest words, and some tears can't hide them anymore. Suddenly, a notification pings on Mary's phone. It's from Janelle. Check your email. Now? She opens it, her eyes scanning the message. Attached are additional documents, letters, photos, and recordings that reveal conversations Robyn thought were private. Moments when she strategically misrepresented facts to the family. There are dates, times, witnesses, indisputable proof. Mary's chest tightens. She feels the weight of responsibility, the gravity of what she holds in her hands. But she also feels a strange surge of determination. This isn't just about winning, it's about exposing the truth. Cody notices her expression change. He leans forward, voice quieter now. Mary, what is that? Before she can answer, Robyn stands abruptly. You don't understand. You think I did this to hurt anyone? I did it because I had to. Mary looks up, her gaze piercing. Had to? Had to manipulate, lie, and file claims without telling anyone? That's not necessity. That's strategy. And Janelle saw it coming. Robyn's face crumples. She tries to speak, but words fail her. Cody steps closer, trying to contain the situation, but tension ripples through the room. Every word now carries the weight of the courtroom, the documents, and the undeniable truth Janelle has delivered. Some defenses crumble quietly, and some people realize too late that the game was never theirs to win. Later, Maris steps outside for air. The wind whips across Coyote Pass, tugging at her hair, brushing her face with a cold reminder of reality. The land feels different tonight, no longer just a piece of property, but a stage for the truths and betrayals that have unfolded here. From the window, she sees Robyn sitting alone, knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. Cody paces back and forth, hands running through his hair. Christine observes from a distance, silent but vigilant, noting every small move. And somewhere, unseen, Janelle watches through her video feed, her presence quiet, calculated, unstoppable. Mary's phone buzzes again. A new email from the lawyer. The message is short. Judge wants a private review of all documents. Be ready for questions. Timing is critical. When secrets collide with law, the smallest detail can ignite the largest explosion. Mary takes a deep breath, her hands tightening around the folder. She knows that the next steps will push everyone to their emotional limits. The courtroom will no longer just hear testimony, it will witness breakdowns, confessions, and betrayals that have been simmering for years. She glances toward the house, at Robyn and Cody, and feels a mix of anticipation and dread. The coming days will decide more than land. They will decide loyalty, trust, and who truly has the power to shape the family's future. Coyote Pass is no longer silent. It's alive with conflict, and the storm has only just begun. The final warning echoes in her mind. One misstep, one lie, one emotional slip, and everything could collapse in a courtroom for all to see. Mary turns back inside, ready to face the next wave.